So my brother's fiancée turned into a full-on bridezilla, demanded $2,000 from me for the wedding, and then kicked me out of the bridal party when I couldn't pay. Now, my whole family has turned against me. I'm 28, and until recently, I thought I had a pretty solid relationship with my family. We weren't perfect, but we were close, or so I thought. This whole mess started with my older brother's wedding. Let's call him Derek. He's 32 and has always been the golden child. Successful job, great personality, the whole package. He got engaged to Carol, his girlfriend of 3 years, who's 30. I was genuinely happy for them when they announced their engagement 6 months ago. Carol seemed nice enough, even though we weren't super close. We'd met at family gatherings and got along fine. Our family isn't huge, but we're tight-knit. There's me, Derek, our younger sister Tracy, she's 25, and our parents. We grew up in a small town, and most of our extended family, like aunts, uncles, and cousins, live nearby. Family has always been a big deal for us, especially for our mom. She's the type who wants everyone together for every single holiday, birthday, and special occasion. Dad's more laid back but usually goes along with whatever mom wants. When Derek and Carol got engaged, Mom went into full wedding planning mode. You'd think it was her wedding, not theirs. Carol seemed okay with it at first, probably because she didn't want to upset her future mother-in-law. But looking back, you could see the signs of trouble brewing. About 4 months before the wedding, Derek called me. He sounded excited, and I figured he just wanted to chat about wedding plans. But then he asked if I'd be a bridesmaid. I was surprised since Carol and I weren't that close, but I thought she was trying to include me as family. I agreed, feeling honored and excited to be part of their special day. Then things started to go downhill fast. The first red flag was the bridesmaid dress fitting. Carol had chosen these horrible, puffy, bright orange dresses that looked like something out of a bad 80s prom movie. When I gently suggested we look at other options, Carol burst into tears, accused me of trying to ruin her perfect day, and ran out of the bridal shop. Derek called me later, asking why I had upset Carol. I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. He just told me to apologize and go along with whatever Carol wanted. So I swallowed my pride and apologized, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. I thought that would be the end of it, but nope. Next came the bridal shower planning. As a bridesmaid, I was expected to help with the preparations. Carol had this elaborate vision of a Great Gatsby-themed party, champagne fountain, live jazz band, vintage cars for photo ops, the works. The cost was insane. When I brought up concerns about the budget, suggesting we could still have a beautiful party without breaking the bank, Carol lost it again. She screamed at me, saying I was jealous and trying to sabotage her shower. Then she demanded I contribute $2,000 towards the party expenses. I was floored. That was way more than I could afford, especially with all the other wedding expenses. When I told her I couldn't pay that much, she called me selfish and cheap. The situation escalated quickly. Carol told Derek I was being difficult and trying to ruin everything. Derek, instead of talking to me directly, told our parents. Soon I was getting calls and texts from Mom, Dad, and even our aunts, all telling me to just do what Carol wanted and stop causing problems. I felt like I was going crazy. How was I the bad guy here? I tried to explain my side, but no one wanted to listen. They all kept saying, "It's just one day. Can't you do this for your brother?" But it wasn't just one day. It was months of stress, unreasonable demands, and financial strain. The final straw came about 6 weeks before the wedding. Carol decided all the bridesmaids needed to lose weight to fit into the dresses she had chosen. She set up a group chat and started sending us daily workout routines and diet plans. She even suggested we all get small cosmetic procedures like Botox and lip fillers to look perfect for her wedding photos. I was furious. This was plain body shaming. I told Carol I wouldn't be changing my body for her wedding and that her demands were inappropriate and harmful. She went ballistic, kicked me out of the bridal party, and called me fat, ugly, and a terrible sister-in-law. I was hurt and angry, but also relieved to be out of the bridal party. However, the family drama was far from over. Derek called, yelling about how I had ruined everything and demanded I apologize to Carol and begged to be let back into the bridal party. When I refused, he told me I was no longer welcome at the wedding. I was heartbroken, not just because I was uninvited from my own brother's wedding, but because my entire family seemed to have turned against me. Mom and Dad were furious, saying I was tearing the family apart with my selfishness. Tracy, who was still a bridesmaid, told me I should have just gone along with everything to keep the peace. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a nightmare. I was excluded from all family events and conversations. My phone was flooded with messages from relatives, some begging me to apologize, others berating me for being difficult. I felt isolated and betrayed. On the day of the wedding, I spent it alone in my apartment, scrolling through social media and seeing all the happy photos of my family celebrating without me. It hurt more than I can express. I cried, screamed into my pillow, and even considered showing up at the venue to confront them all. But in the end, I stayed home, feeling like an outcast. The day after the wedding, I woke up to a barrage of angry messages. Apparently, my absence had been the talk of the wedding. Carol had told everyone I tried to sabotage her big day out of jealousy and had said horrible things about her. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. In the eyes of my family, I was now the villain. I tried to defend myself and explain what really happened, but no one wanted to listen. Derek told me he needed time away from me to heal from what I'd done. Mom said she was ashamed of me. Dad, who had always been my friend, just sighed and said he was disappointed. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding, and I feel like I'm living in some bizarre alternate reality. How did standing up for myself turn me into the family pariah? I've always been close with my family, and now I'm the black sheep, the one they whisper about. I'm hurt, angry, and confused. For now, I'm taking some time for myself. I've muted the family group chats, and I'm not responding to the guilt-tripping messages. I need to figure out where I go from here and how to navigate this new family dynamic where I'm suddenly the outsider. I never imagined a wedding could tear a family apart like this. I always thought blood was thicker than water, but now I'm not so sure. All I know is that I'm not the same person I was before this all started, and my relationship with my family will never be the same either. Update. I want to start by thanking everyone who took the time to read and respond to my story. The support and validation I've received from this community have been overwhelming and incredibly helpful. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support during this tough time. A lot of you pointed out that Carol's behavior wasn't just being a bridezilla, but was actually bordering on abusive. The stuff about her body shaming and crazy financial demands really opened my eyes to how toxic things had gotten. I realized now that I wasn't overreacting. If anything, I probably should have stood up for myself sooner. A bunch of you also mentioned concerns about my sister Tracy and how she's dealing with all this. Your comments made me realize I needed to reach out to her, which I'll get to in a bit. Seriously, thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. So here's what's been happening since my last post. It's been a month, and things have only gotten messier. I thought maybe with some time and space, my family would chill out and be ready to hear my side of things. Boy, was I wrong. About 2 weeks after the wedding, my mom called. For a second, I felt hopeful, like maybe she was ready to listen. But nope, she just wanted me to apologize to Derek and Carol. Mom told me Carol was devastated by me not being at the wedding and cried during the reception because her sister wasn't there. I almost laughed out loud. Carol and I were never close, and she certainly never considered me a sister before. It was obvious she was playing the victim, and my family was totally buying it. Mom then dropped the bomb that Derek and Carol were planning to try for a baby soon, and if I didn't make things right, I might not get to be part of my future niece or nephew's life. She actually said, "Do you want to be the aunt that the kids never meet because she was too stubborn to apologize?" I was speechless. I couldn't believe my own mother was using potential future grandkids as emotional blackmail. When I finally found my voice, I told her I had nothing to apologize for. I hadn't done anything wrong. I just stood up to Carol's unreasonable and often cruel demands. Mom's response? Sometimes we have to apologize even when we don't think we're wrong for the sake of family harmony. I ended the call shortly after, feeling drained and even more hurt. It was clear that in my family's eyes, harmony meant bowing down to Derek and Carol's wishes, no matter how absurd. The next day, I got a long email from Derek. I thought, maybe he's ready to hear me out. But nope, the email was pages of him detailing every perceived slight and offense I'd committed, not just during wedding planning, but throughout our entire lives. He accused me of always being jealous and trying to steal the spotlight, digging up childhood incidents and twisting them to make me look like the villain. According to Derek, I'd always been selfish and difficult, and my wedding behavior was just the final straw. What hurt the most was how he described our relationship, like he had always just tolerated me. Reading those words felt like my entire childhood was being rewritten. Had he always felt this way? Was our sibling bond a lie? I couldn't respond. Every word felt like a knife to my heart, and I knew anything I said would be twisted against me. A few days later, I ran into Tracy at the grocery store. It was awkward. She looked like she didn't know whether to hug me or run away. We made small talk for a few minutes, avoiding the elephant in the room. Finally, I asked her how she was really doing. Tracy broke down right there in the middle of the produce section. Through her tears, she said she felt caught in the middle. She admitted that being a bridesmaid had been a nightmare, with Carol micromanaging everything from their diets to their social media posts. I asked her why she hadn't spoken up, why she let me take all the blame. Her response? I was scared. I didn't want to end up like you, cut off from everyone. We talked for a while longer, and I could see the guilt eating away at her. Before we parted, I told her I didn't blame her and that I understood the pressure she was under. I also let her know she could always come to me for support. The encounter with Tracy left me with a lot to think about. It was clear that the family dynamics were more toxic than I'd realized. Carol's behavior had exposed cracks that had probably been there all along, hidden beneath the surface of our happy family. I decided to reach out to a therapist for another perspective. While Reddit has been amazing, I needed someone to help me navigate these choppy, emotional waters. In our first session, the therapist suggested that I might be dealing with a family system that prioritized the appearance of harmony over actual healthy relationships. She also pointed out that my brother's email sounded like classic projection and gaslighting. By accusing me of jealousy and spotlight stealing, he might actually be revealing his own insecurities and issues. As for my parents, she suggested their behavior might stem from a deep-seated fear of conflict and change. By pressuring me to apologize and fall in line, they were trying to restore the status quo, even if that status quo was unhealthy. It was a lot to process, but it was also liberating to have someone validate my feelings and experiences. For the first time in a month, I felt like I wasn't crazy, like my perspective mattered. The therapist recommended that I maintain firm boundaries with my family while working through my feelings. She suggested writing letters to each family member, not to send, but as a way of expressing my thoughts and emotions in a safe space. I took her advice and spent the next week writing letters to Derek, Carol, my parents, and Tracy, pouring out everything I had been feeling. After writing the letters, I made a big decision. I wasn't going to keep chasing after my family's approval. I wasn't going to apologize for standing up for myself, and I wasn't going to let their twisted version of events become my reality. I decided to take a step back from all family interactions for a while. I needed time and space to heal, rebuild my self-esteem, and figure out what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with my family in the future. It wasn't an easy decision. The thought of distancing myself from my family, even temporarily, was scary. But as I reflected on the past few months, I realized that staying in close contact was doing more harm than good. Every interaction left me feeling drained, hurt, and questioning my own worth. So I sent a brief message to my parents, Derek and Tracy. I told them I needed some time away from family interactions to focus on my mental health. I said I loved them, but that the current situation was too painful, and I needed space to heal. The responses were mixed. Mom sent a long, guilt-tripping message about how I was breaking her heart. Dad simply replied, "Okay." Tracy sent a supportive message, saying she understood and respected my decision. Derek and Carol didn't respond at all. And that's where things stand now. Thanks again to all of you for your amazing support and advice. You've been a lifeline. Hey, so it's been a week since I sent that message, and honestly, it hasn't been easy. There are moments when I second-guess my decision, when I'm tempted to call Mom or text Eric and try to patch things up. But then I remember all the hurtful words, the unfair accusations, and how everyone turned against me. I know I'm doing the right thing for myself by staying strong. Right now, I'm focusing on self-care. It's a journey, and I know it won't be a walk in the park. There will be more family events I'll miss, more occasions where my absence will be noticed and probably talked about. But for now, this is what I need to do to protect my mental health and rebuild my sense of self. So, it's been 3 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I'm still trying to process it all. First, the good news. The time and space I've taken for myself have been incredibly healing. My therapist was right. Setting boundaries and focusing on self-care has done wonders for my mental health. But of course, family stuff is never simple, and there have been plenty of complications. About a month after my last update, my sister Tracy reached out to me in tears. She couldn't handle the family drama anymore. Since I stepped back, she's become the new target for Carol's demands and our parents' expectations. Tracy told me Carol was pressuring her to be a bridesmaid for her friend's upcoming wedding, saying it would be the ultimate act of sisterly love and a way to make up for my absence at their wedding. I was shocked. Tracy has always been clear about not wanting to be involved in big social events, especially after the stress of Derek and Carol's wedding. The fact that Carol would try to manipulate her into this and that our family was supporting the idea was mind-boggling. Tracy asked if she could stay with me for a while to escape the pressure, and of course I agreed. Living together, we've had so many conversations about our childhood, our family, and the events surrounding the wedding. Tracy admitted she always felt overshadowed by Derek and me. Derek for being the golden child and me for being the rebel who stood up to our parents. She confessed that part of the reason she went along with Carol's demands was that she finally felt seen by the family. It's been eye-opening to hear Tracy's perspective. I realized that in my own hurt and anger, I hadn't fully considered how the family dynamics had affected her. We've cried together, laughed together, and started to heal our relationship. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Meanwhile, the rest of the family hasn't taken Tracy's defection well. Mom has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between guilt-tripping and anger. Dad, who had been mostly silent before, has now started leaving voicemails demanding that we stop this nonsense and come home. Derek and Carol's response has been the most surprising. Instead of trying to make amends or understand our perspective, they've doubled down on their narrative of us being the villains. They've started a smear campaign, telling extended family and mutual friends that Tracy and I are mentally unstable and have abandoned the family. I was tempted to respond publicly to tell my side of the story, but my therapist advised against it, saying it would only escalate the situation. One particularly difficult moment came when our aunt, Mom's sister, reached out to me. She said she noticed something was wrong at the wedding and wanted to hear my side of the story. To my surprise, she listened without judgment and even shared some of her own experiences with our mother's controlling behavior. She told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself, even though it cost me my relationship with the family. It was the first time anyone from the family had validated my feelings, and I broke down crying on the phone with her. This conversation with my aunt made me realize that there might be other family members who see through the facade and understand that something isn't right. It gave me a glimmer of hope that maybe over time, more of the truth will come out. Fast forward to now. It's been a year since the wedding that changed everything, and I'm sitting here reflecting on how much has changed and how much I've changed. First, the big news. Tracy and I moved. We packed up our lives and relocated to a city on the other side of the country. It was a scary decision, but it's turned out to be one of the best choices we've ever made. We're building new lives, free from the weight of family expectations and small-town gossip. Tracy started a new career in graphic design, something she's always been passionate about but never pursued because our parents didn't see it as a real job. She's thriving, and it's beautiful to see her confidence grow day by day. As for the family situation, it's complicated. Derek and Carol had their baby 6 months ago. We found out through a mass email announcement. The message was cold and formal, like a business notification rather than a birth announcement. There was no acknowledgement.